Pot in My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pod in My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, as always, and this week we are here joined by Mr. David Finkle, author of many things, a journalist, and the book Humpty Trumpty 2.0. Now, just for anybody at home, there is a Humpty Trumpty 1. This is the second volume, if you will. Welcome to the show, David. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, CK. It's good to be with you. I see that you have two M's in your name. I know that, and for some reason I put two K's in my surname, but which is incorrect. But I will learn how to spell it correctly at some point soon.
At some point, yes, indeed. And when we do link out to you, we'll make sure that it's corrected on our end.
Thanks.
All right. So we have about 30 minutes today. So let's talk about this book first and foremost. So, but before we dive into this book, why don't we go back and talk about who David Finkle is and what brought him to actually write the first book to start with.
The first book, which is called Donald J. Trump's First White House Year in Verse, I wrote because, in a way, I couldn't not write it. Mm-hmm. It will probably become clear, if it already isn't, that I'm not a fan of Donald J. Trump. I do live in New York City, although I was brought up in New Jersey, which in some ways is across the river, in other ways is a million miles away. But I've lived here for many years, and those of us who live in New York City and have lived here for quite a while, I'm sort of first generation New York City, but there are certainly people who are many generations. We kind of know who he was and is. And on January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day, his first inauguration, I was so dismayed that he was about to become the president of this great country that I wasn't sure what to do about it. But because I, for many years, have written lyrics to a few hundred songs, I thought, well, what do I do well? I can write a lyric and I can write a rhyme. So what I think I'll do is just on this first day, I will do a send-up of Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. And I made fun of that. I rewrote that. It was many verses. And then I thought to myself, you know, maybe I'll try another one tomorrow. And I did. And then I thought, well, would it be possible for me to do one a day for a year? And well, it's a challenge. I'll try it. And actually, I met the challenge. I wrote 365. And then on the following year, on the anniversary of the inauguration, I added one more. So I collected all of those rhymes for the first book. And when the second inauguration came around, I thought, I can't do that again. I just can't do it again. But maybe I can do the first day. And so I did the first one. And then I said, well, I guess I could do the second day. And then I just kept doing them. But I thought, I can't do a year. What I'll do is I'll do the first 100 days, which I stuck to. I was able to do that. Each day I would put them up on Facebook. So they were all there one day at a time. And when the 100 days were over, I put them together, and Plum Bay published the book, and so now we have the second, my follow-up. I'm certainly hoping that there, in 2028, there won't become a reason to do a third book. I, I might keep myself from that, but
Well,
otherwise,
yeah.
that's how I
So
came to write it. That's how I wrote these books.
and so okay. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. But like you have written other books as well. Like this is not
Oh
your
yes,
first
I have. Yeah,
mention.
I've written several books, and many of them quite different. There are two collections of short stories. The first collection is called "People Tell Me Things,"
Mm-hmm.
which was also a warning to my friends, because if people tell me something that's happened to them, it's material. It can be material. I always fictionalize it, but and I think there are a dozen stories in People Tell Me Things, and most of them are based on things people have told me about themselves that I then said, that's a fascinating story, but what if this had also happened? And
Mm.
so I wrote those. The last one in that collection is called Memorial, which is autobiographical fiction. I think it still may be the best thing I've written. Maybe not. I hope I've, in some ways, written things as good since. I love these two books about Trump because, in some way, the fact that I was writing them took the onus of despair off of me because I was
Mm.
doing something creative with my despair. So um, the second the second collection of short stories is called "Some uh, Great Dates with Some Late Greats," and
Mm.
in every story, someone from some real person from the past shows up in the life of someone today who needs help,
Okay.
and so Hemingway shows up, Babe Ruth shows up, Toulouse-Lautrec shows up in someone's life, and and uh, and then my first novel is called The Man with the Overcoat, which is a kind of a fantasy about a guy who that was based on a dream I had, and that's not all that unusual. I've written a few things based on dreams, something I woke up remembering the last part of a dream, and then thought, oh, I can do something with that. And this had to do with a man standing in front of a bank of elevators on a Fifth Avenue office building at the end of the day, the end of the workday, and he's waiting to get on the elevator, and the elevator doors open, and a man comes out holding an overcoat. He's in a business suit and carrying an attaché case in one hand and an overcoat, and he hands it to the man about to get on the elevator, and the guy takes it and then thinks, "What am I doing with this? Why did I take this overcoat?" And he turns around to return it, and the guy has disappeared. And he thought, I'm going to give this guy his coat back. And he needs clues. And he finds a couple things in the pockets of the coat that start him on what becomes a 24-hour chase to get the overcoat back to the original owner. He assumed it was the owner, and so that's that novel. And last November, I published my first mystery, which is called the Great Gatsby Murder Case,
Mm.
and it's a mystery in which the book, an edition of the Great Gatsby, helps solve a murder case that supposedly it was a suicide. Um, so it's kind of surreal, and it was so much fun to write, and the response has been so good to it. The Great Gatsby murder case, which The Great Gatsby is my idea of the great American novel of the 20th century. Um, and so the people have liked it so much because it's kind of surreal. I mean, a book is commanding him by words that leap out of the page in an edition of the Great Gatsby, that he solves it eventually with the help of a former police detective. And that was so much fun to write that I decided, I like the character of him and the detective, and he lives on a street in New York. The character's name is Daniel Freund. Daniel Freund lives on a street in New York, and a couple doors down is one of those busybody women who's always standing on her stoop, uh, watching everything that's happening in the neighborhood and butting into everybody else's affairs. And so those three characters will now appear in what I'm writing, the follow-up, which is the Oliver Twist murder case. So the
This
Oliver. So in
sounds
addition,
fun to me.
it's certainly being fun to write. The first
I
one was
would be that busybody old lady, except I wouldn't actually meddle in anybody's affairs, but I would have full like knowledge of everything that happens on that street. That's who I am as a person. Is
well, I
uh,
think I may have to consult you, CK, for to help fill in some of Miss Bell. Her name is Miss Belfer, and some of her observations. Maybe you can give me some of your observations on
oh,
your.
I see things that are people have no idea. I live above a man who's lived here his entire 60 years of life. And I know what every single tenant in the surrounding houses, every one of their cars, their friends' cars, and if there's a strange car that's parked anywhere near our section, I'm like, don't know who that belongs to. But it's not that I'm constantly looking out the window, but I'm a smoker, so I step outside a lot, and as such, I just capture details, and I will notice if, say a young woman down the street is with a gentleman suitor that's not normal. I don't say anything. I see everything, but I don't say anything, right? Because it's like, unless it was something that needed to
But
be said.
good for you. I live in a building with on a row of houses that are federal and Italianate um, buildings, and they all have, most of them, not every one of them, have stoops. And some of the buildings had stoops, but were taken away by foolish owners for some reason, no good reason. And so I spent a lot of time sitting on my stoop, and so does Daniel Freund in the novels. And but I know a lot of my neighbors, but I'm not like you. I don't know all of them.
I don't
And
know I don't know
I
them
mean,
to know them, but
I don't recognize all of them. Uh,
But you're
and it,
probably in a much more densely populated area than I am. Like I am in what you would consider like a city suburb.
uh-huh.
It's not a suburb, but it's we don't have high rises or things. More of a brownstone street where you
Well,
have
I'm also on a brownstone street, and
yeah.
and and the one I'm writing, the Oliver Twist murder case, uh, the the Great Gatsby murder case happened in a building that is sort of two or three doors to my left. The Oliver Twist murder case takes place across the street, and
Oh, so
and
prime vantage point for Mrs.
and
Bell.
and and I've no and the character, I start to say I because Daniel
Yeah,
Freud is a kind of version of me in
extension
print,
of you.
has noticed that something very strange goes on in the top two floors of a building across the street. And because his hunch in the Great Gatsby murder case, that there had been a murder in a what supposedly was a locked door, an open and shut locked door suicide, case. He now believes that his hunches, if he gets a hunch, it's got to be right. And he's got a
Mm.
hunch that something is going wrong in that building across the street. And
Well,
and discovers that something does go on, and that's has gone on in that. So it's I'm having a lot of fun. If I get to a third one, it's going to be the Wuthering Heights.
and I love this play, right? I love this play on all of these cute, um, these great books.
Yeah,
These
well,
these
I am
stories.
I am a reader. I don't know. You can't actually. You can't see.
I
You
can see
can't.
your stacks behind you.
You can see that those stacks.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I can
you
only
know,
imagine that's just a portion of what you have in your
it's a
dwelling.
very small portion.
Yes.
And, in all the time I've been here, I think one person has come in to the apartment and not said some form of, "Oh, so many books."
But on top of that, and we got to take a quick break, but on top of that, you are also a journalist and you are a theater critic for the New York Stage Review.
That's right. Yeah, my sort of my weekly job is, and I've been a theater reviewer for years, and at the moment, and for some years now, I'm also a Tony voter, and so I see. I probably review at least 100. Well, maybe am I overestimating that? I certainly see 100, maybe 150 productions a year. Maybe I review 90, 100, 90 of them, 80 of them, probably. But
Mr.
that's so I'm out
Finkle,
at the theater a lot. I'm out at the
when I,
theater 4 and 5, 6 nights a week.
when I grow up, I want to be like you. So, do you mean to tell me that you get paid to go see shows and review them?
Yeah, I mean to tell you that, yes. I go to shows, see them on. I'm a member of the First Night Press and have been for 40 years, I think, certainly 35 years. So I'm a member of the First Night Press. So luckily, I do not pay for my tickets, which if I did, and I don't know how much your people who are listening to this um, know about current theater prices in New York City, they are quite they're outrageous. And it's very upsetting because it's very hard for me in a review to say, you must see this
Mm,
if getting to see it means spending $400, $500 a ticket. When the last season, when Denzel Washington did Othello, I think the top ticket price was $961. And so, how many people can see that? I have so many friends who love theater at this point who can't pay to go. They may be
yeah,
able
it
to,
creates a barrier
and
to the arts.
so I'm trying to figure out a way to see how we can reconfigure theater prices in some way, so that people who love theater can go, and not just rich people um, who
I've
may.
always thought, and we have to take a break because we're at 20 minutes, but I've always thought that every show, every theater show has their main cast and everybody has their understudy. And typically there's always an understudy in the wings for each of those understudies because the show must go on. And I've always believed that there should be matinee shows where the understudies do the work 3 to 4 times a week so they stay in precision, and this is open to the public, so maybe it's not your headliners but you're still getting the show, so you get to see the production and the acting and the singing, the dancing, whatever it may be, at a reduced price, so it's increased revenue for the program, the production company, and that's
You
I've
know,
always believed that.
CK, that is a great thought, and I'm going to bring that up here in New York when I'm also a member of what's known as the Drama Desk, and when the Drama Desk members get together for panels, and we address this subject, which I'm hoping we'll do sometime very soon. I'm going to bring that idea up.
I
I
just
don't know.
Yeah, to me, it
I,
just feels so sensible to do with that.
uh, and I will tell you, which you may already know or have sussed out somehow. I would say for almost every part in anything on Broadway, there are at least 10 New York actors who can do it equally well.
Absolutely.
It is a marquee city. George Clooney, was here this past season, and his ticket price was also very high. It was a version of his Good Night and Good Luck, the movie, which he very smartly with his co-writer, whose name is Hegson. Now I'm forgetting it for the moment. Uh, they retweaked it so that the McCarthy era in which it takes place, and which is what Edward R. Murrow was covering at the time, is there's a very clear uh, echo in it of what's happening in the Trump administration now. So it makes it very current,
Mm.
and it was very good. Um, but people had to pay. I think his top ticket price was around $800. I think. Um,
I
so
feel there's two things at play there, right? I feel like you're bringing in movie stars to do theater, so obviously prices are going to be more expensive if you want to have some form of payout that's similar. But then
mhm.
also, I just feel like it's another area of life where things are becoming more and more elitist, and that there's just more and more barriers for regular people to get in to see quality theater. That shouldn't be the way, right? There should be some discount or accessible way for people who can go see these shows. Um, so I've decided now that we're just not going to take a break today, and that's fine.
Well,
Um,
do
you'll be
you, do
my
you,
first guest to not go to break because we have the conversation is so interesting. And what's wonderful about you, Mr. Finkel, is that I feel that there could be hours and hours and hours spent talking about all kinds of things. Like you have that that sort of way about you, where I'm sure that your mind is incredibly deep and beautiful with lots of stories to tell.
I don't know how
Um,
my mind is, but
well, and I just think, yeah. Also, I'm fascinated at your role. I want to do I because the reason that you're here is because of this book. So I do want to spend a bit of time on this book, even though I'd rather just talk to you about your life and theater and all those things because he gets enough attention as he already gets. But
I'll tell you something, CK. The fact that you have held the book up through this entire interview is I'm so grateful for because it meant that the cover has been seen, and I'm always happy to sell another book. Because I do want people to read this book, and it is when I finished it, I realized that what I had done to some extent, and this may sound a little pretentious, or a lot pretentious, and maybe it is a lot pretentious, but I, because I can be pretentious at times, but uh, it is a history of the first 100 days in verse, and I'm
mm,
not sure that such a thing exists anywhere else. Uh, that that maybe John Milton wrote histories in verse, but not me, or not. I mean, I have now, and these two books, and I want there to be a history in this form.
yes, well, he's definitely making history for sure. What's interesting to me is that you talked about how your book, The Great Gatsby Murder Case, and nope, wait, no, hold on. You're talking, no, give me a second. I'm rearranging my thoughts. Late date, the dates with the late greats.
Great dates with some late greats.
There you go. And immediately when you said that, I'm holding it up again now. Immediately when you said that, I was like, how about some dead presidents? Like like Lincoln. Like let's have some dead presidents come back and like show up in the Oval Office and give a massive ass whooping. There we go. That would be a great date.
I like that idea, CK. And I'm going to keep it in mind
Keep it in mind.
because in that uh, great days with some late greats, there is no president that comes back. That never crossed my mind. Machiavelli comes back. Marilyn Monroe comes back. Um, Marilyn Monroe comes back and is met by the narrator, who's the same person in every story. No, it isn't. No, that's not quite right. It's a different person needs the help. But Marilyn Monroe appears in a story in which someone who lives on East 57th Street, where I used to live, a block from where she lived on East 57th Street, and this person meets her in a local deli across the street when she's about to finish her brief late breakfast and get in a cab and go to Broadway where she's doing Hamlet. So Marilyn Monroe is on Broadway as Hamlet, not Gertrude, but Hamlet. And she's very good in it, by the way. And so that's how Marilyn Monroe fits in. But it was a lot of fun to write. But now I'm thinking presidents. Wouldn't that be interesting? Teddy Roosevelt came back, or Washington, or Andrew Jackson. It was now a lot in the news because Trump is such a fan of Andrew Jackson. That could be a lot of fun.
I would just like a president you could bring back that wouldn't be fearful of kicking Donald Trump in his bone spurs.
If they actually exist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fair point. Fair point. So I try not to be super political on this show as a rule. Here's the thing. I don't like Donald Trump either. I despise what he stands for. I despise what his whole administration stands for. I think there has never been a greater blight. Well, no, I'll hold off on that. Slavery was a bigger blight, but I feel like
which he's trying to underplay.
Exactly, absolutely. So I know it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I do have hope for the future. I do. I believe I have to hold on to that hope, right? Because
we all do.
The people in the U.S. I'm not in the U.S. I'm a Canadian. I have never met someone from the U.S. I didn't like, and I've been all over. So like there's a lot of people in the U.S. who are just like Canadians and vice versa, and we just somehow got to a point where evil took over. Really, I know that they like to guise themselves as white Christian nationalists. We all know that they're evil. They're not following the teachings of Christ. We know this, but he particularly a puppet of Mr. Vote, as far as I'm concerned. But yes, these are very like loud statements I'm making. But the book is awesome. So it's very cute. I have to say, you do, even though it's in verse and it is recorded history now, I do find the use of words in this book to be quite amusing. And I also, you wrote right up until like the whole 100 days, you wrote right up until April 29th. Do you mind if I read the April 29th?
I don't mind at all. Okay. I'm flattered.
Oh. April 29th, 2025. So Trump now ends 100 days, which wasn't an unruffled phase. It was as if his secret aim was proving that he has no shame. And surely of his other goals was not the plunging of his polls. Economy he thought he'd locked, but tariffs have his future hawked. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, more. Their damage Trump cannot ignore. Through deportation was his, though deportation was his hope. It hasn't panned out, has it? Nope. That's all. That this volume's at a close. It's goodbye rhyme and back to prose.
Well, thanks for reading that. I
Yeah,
loved your.
I find it great. Like it's fun. It's and you had mentioned that when you wrote the first one, you accepted the challenge of the 365 days. I and being mindful of time, I do have to ask, like, did you get in the crosshairs the first time around, or this time around, or
No, I haven't heard from Washington, from the Oval Office, from the Oval Office, from the Resolute desk. Um, I think he I think he has so many more people he wants to go after before he would get to me. That
well, there's so many people from his first term, right? And then there's
right,
so many
yeah.
people who blighted him once he lost to Biden that he has a very long list of political or just simple opponents that he would like to eradicate from the world. Um, that maybe you, because it's a rhyming book, so it's not inflammatory, even though it is. It's not as inflammatory as like some expose that got posted. So I think that anybody who particularly likes a giggle and enjoys reminder of Trump's first 100 days, because I feel like it's gotten worse since then. Go get um, Humpty Trumpty 2.0, and it actually says Donald J. Trump's second first 100 days in verse. So it's by David Finkle. It's illustrated because there are some cute illustrations in there too. And while I say cute, I mean cute, but also on the nose. Illustrated by Charlie Mulhern. But there is a beginning book as well. So if you're really interested, I think you should go and read the 365 days years, the 365 day book in verse. And I know what's going to be crazy here, and what I haven't read the first one. I'd like to now. What I think is really interesting is I know as much as he was such a piece of work in his first term, he was like a a sleeping teddy bear compared to what he is now in this term. And so I would love to actually read it, and I'm going to, because I think that it would be interesting to see what the first year looked like for him and be reminded of all the days. And then you take this book and you read it, and then you're like, oh, yeah. It's way worse. It's way worse. So currently you're working on the Oliver twist. Do we know when that's going to be out? Do you have a projected
We
release
don't,
date?
because I would hope that I finish it in time. If I finish it by say January 31st, which is possible, that it would be published in November. Pretty much exactly a year after the Great Gatsby murder case was published. So, and I will be publishing a novel in February, a much longer and, in a way, far more serious work that I've done. But I've reached the point. It took me a long time to actually get down to writing books, because I thought I had a lot of favorite contemporary writers: Philip Roth, John Cheever, uh, E.L. Doctorow, and many others I could mention. The short story writer Mavis Gallant. Um, and I thought, if I can't write at their level, why bother? And finally, there was a story, the story I mentioned earlier, called Memorial, that's in the People Tell Me Things collection. I had to write that story, and I thought, this isn't so bad. And so that I've written a lot, but I was in my 50s when I started doing that. And so I've got several books I haven't gotten around to publishing yet. And I like writing, and I can't, and in a way I can't not write, because if you get stories or urges to write in you, you can't hold them in, because it begins to feel as if they're festering inside you and eating away. So I just keep writing, good or bad. I try to do my best, no matter what I do. I hope when I finish, I think, okay, that's the best I could do. That's really, it's my best. And
That's great advice.
sometimes when I go back and I think I'll read it now, but I probably won't care for it. I'll probably will I be embarrassed? And then I do, and I always think, well, that wasn't so bad.
I love it.
I'm not embarrassed now.
Good. So
Anyway.
so what I hear is that there's many things to come to you from you in the future.
You've put it very nicely, and I'll remember that, along with the idea of the presidents who come back.
Yes, and the cheaper theater.
Oh, that's very important.
Yes.
Very important.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I will link this book and the other books by Mr. Finkle in the description. And to everyone at home that's been watching, get out there. And until next time, live your wildest dreams.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.